Good morning, everyone. So, in this class, we'll proceed further. In yesterday's class, what we have seen about the partitioner and combiner, as well as we have seen data compression in big data. Okay. Now, here, we'll revise those topics, as well as we'll start our next chapters also. So, let me show you first of all our syllabus, what we are doing actually. I think you can see big data analytics syllabus. Now, as you can see, till 3 chapters is there in big data. Am I audible? Am I properly audible? Just one or two people just write down yes or no. Are you able to see the screen, right? Yeah, okay, fine. So, there are total 3 chapters in your syllabus. Total, we have 6 chapters. 50% syllabus we have kept in our this mid semester. And now you see the Hadoop. We have most of the part we have completed about Hadoop. Okay. Most of the part we have completed in Hadoop. One or two topic is still left. That is Hadoop in the cloud. This topic is is in your homework. No, I'm not telling you to do it by yourself, but yeah, you can see Hadoop in the cloud. Okay, let me give you the service. In AWS, we have AWS EMR service, which is you can implement Hadoop Cloud in AWS EMR service. So I have given the link here. And now, if you're interested, you can see this article, just get an idea. As well as in Google also, Azure also, there is some services are there which is supporting this Hadoop. So you can see it. Okay, read it. But I don't think we'll go into this into depth. If our syllabus gets completed on time, then we'll see. Okay. So till 3 chapters we have, and now next chapter is NoSQL. Very important. Now in NoSQL, they have not there. It's a 7 hours time, but there are no practicals. What we are going to do with NoSQL, we are going to see MongoDB. We are going to see MongoDB. Let me write down here. Okay, we are going to see MongoDB. Again, it's an important point here. Fine. So we'll extend this our NoSQL chapter also. Fine. So I hope you are clear with this mid-semester syllabus. Next 3 chapters that we'll learn after the mid-semester. We have time till October 6th. Okay, October. So next chapter that will see 5th and 6th. After that, we'll again come to the 4th chapter. That is little bit required some extra knowledge. Fine. So let me stop sharing. Let me start. Combiner. Okay, one more thing. Like some of you can remind me. I forgot to upload all the materials in e-content. I think today, if I remember correctly, I will upload it. But even if I forget, then let me know. Okay, I will upload it as soon as possible because we have exam 20, so we have still time. Fine. So, yeah. I think we understood all these things. If not understood properly, then please watch my previous videos, watch my previous lectures. Its link is there in our portal available. I upload it regularly. Some of the links you may not find, but most of the part is there. Just sorry. So let's come to the part from where yesterday we have started. We already seen map videos, flow chart, and all these things. We have seen these commands, how to run the program. First program also we have seen. Very important that you run the first program in your laptop computer. This is how you understand. Okay, now let's start from here. What is the difference between old and new API? Now you see, we are working with new API. So from 2016, new API has been introduced. Old API has been deprecated, but still, if you download the new API, old API code, you won't see. But still, it supports. Like some of the companies which work before 2016, what if uh, these people, those who design all this framework, they don't cancel those codes, but they say it's deprecated. Just say they say deprecated, okay, and they tell to company or the people, those who developer, they tell that this code has been deprecated. Don't use it. Fine, fine. So the you see this first difference, which already I think I've shown you at the time of import. You are supposed to import MapReduce, org.hadoop.mapreduce, not MapRed. MapRed belongs to older API. MapReduce belongs to newer API. So in older API, we had a tool and tool learner. In new API, we don't have such classes. This is how you configure the job plan or run job, and wait for completion in the newer API. So we can set number of mappers by using set num map task, and we don't have such method. So in new API, we are not supposed to set number of mappers. It's like a mapper will be there. Now mapper will be organized automatically. Okay. So mapper code, there is a one class known as a mapper code is there. We don't have mapper code. A mapper is an interface in older API, newer API. Mapper is an abstract class here. So what is abstract class? Only definition is there. It's given. We are supposed to give implementation. Okay, in Java you might have heard abstract class. Okay, so output we have in older API. So in here we have context class which gives us output. In older API, there was a collect keyword. In new API, we have a write keyword. We have used all these things in a program. Reducer code, we have MapReduce base, this class. We don't have such class in reducer code, which we have. Reducer is an interface, and reducer here is an abstract class. Okay. Output collector again, reporter, we have context class to write down the output. Write is a keyword. Here is in older API, collect is a keyword, and the output we get, it's iterable. Partitioner is an interface. Here partitioner is again abstract class. Identity reduce, identity mapper is there in older API. We don't have such classes in new API. This is how the it was giving us output. In new API, it was giving us output like this. Part -r 5 times 0, part -m 5 times 0. If you see R, that means it's a reducer output. If you see M, that means it's a mapper output. Okay, fine. So this 5 times 0 means, I think yesterday I asked that many reducer or that many mappers can be generated. We have limit till 1 lakh. You see, if you count from here. Okay, so this many mapper reducer we can generate. Okay, yesterday we have seen combiner. What is combiner? So each and every block we have combiner. It's known as a mini reducer. So one mapper we have one combiner, another mapper we have another combiner, one mapper we have one combiner. So this is how it generates. How like this one mapper it generates. Okay. So what it does, this combiner, it combines this how many times how is there in this mapper, in this individual mapper, how is there 2 times. So it combines the how here. And then it gives the reducer. Why? So reducer, let's say before combiner, it's a 30 key value pair. Okay, let's say if a 30 key value pair, it is a 0.15 kb size. Let's say 100 key value pair, it gets 1 kb of size. 1 lakh key value pair, we say 1 MB of size. What about this 1 crore, 2 crore, let's say this many of size? Now you see this many of sizes goes to reducer. It will certainly reduce the network bandwidth. I mean, it occupies lot of network bandwidth. What if we reduce the size from here, from mapper only, if we reduce the size? So that's why we use combiner. Okay, very, very important topic. As I yesterday shown you, it's only one line we are supposed to put in our program, and combiner will be there. Okay. So combiner will try to do shuffling and sorting on individual output of the mapper. Individual output of the mapper, combiner will do shuffling and sorting. Okay. So n number of mapper, there will be n number of combiner. Simple. N number of mapper, there will be n number of combiner. So combiner is for increased performance by decreased network traffic. Combiner also known as a mini reducer. We have seen. Again, partitioner is there. More performance of application. How it gives more performance of application? Now, actually, I didn't tell you yesterday. So, in partitioner, you see, mapper gives intermediate data. Mapper gives intermediate data here. Okay. So what happens? As mapper gives intermediate data here, we have in between hash partitioner. Okay. So based on this hash partitioner, we divide the intermediate data and we give it to we divide into different partitions so that we can generate different reducer. Anyway, let me tell you. So you see, one reducer means one output. One reducer means one output, but here we are giving it to different reducer. So yeah, 3 reducer, and we'll divide in 3 reducer. Okay, so hash partitioner is a default partitioner class. So inside the partitioner class, hash partitioner is working. Let me tell you, inside the partition class, hash partitioner is working. Okay. So depending upon hash code of object, hash partitioner will try to split the number of reducer. So hash partitioner does not know which key value pair should go to which reducer. Okay. Now you see, as I told you the example, based on the key value, we are dividing the output, whether it should go to the first reducer, second reducer, or third reducer. Okay, you see, I'm writing. Return 1 means it goes to second reducer, return 0 means it goes to first reducer, return 2 means it goes to third reducer, else return 3. So how many number of reducer will work with? So if we are giving 3 reducer program, it gives an exception. Why? What is the length of 4? To whom it value will return? So if we are giving 3 reducers to the program, here you see 3 reducers. Then we have to give 4 reducers by default. Once again, let me tell you, if we have usage of only 3 reducers, then what if exception occurs? Exception means what if the key length is greater than 4 or more than 4 or more than 3? Where it will go? It will throw an exception. So we are not supposed to stop the program because we are dealing with terabytes of data. So that is why we are taking 4 reducers. Okay. So this is our main class, set partitioner class. Okay. So this is how the reducer will be generated, first, second, and third. And total 1 lakh reducer will have 99,999 reducers. But you see, we are also counting this as a first reducer. So we'll have 1 lakh of reducer. Fine. So we have completed this combiner and reducer. Fine, everyone. These two were a very, very important topic. If you consider is a very, very important, then please consider in exam. Definitely, these 2 questions will be there: combiner as well as reducer. Sorry, combiner as well as partitioner. Okay. What is the responsibility of name node in SDFS? Now, let me tell you, there are some questions. I'm covering questions here because these questions are important in Hadoop. Okay. No worries. I will be uploading this document, Big Data Online. This document is very important, which from here I'm teaching you all these things. So what is the responsibility of name node in SDFS? So responsibility of name node is creating metadata for every block. Name node service is known as a single point of failover. Without it, SDFS is inaccessible. So as I told you, name node is an important part. If it gets failed, our system will not work. Name node is a master daemon for creating metadata for blocks stored on data nodes. Every data node sends heartbeat and block report to name node. If name node does not receive any heartbeat, then it simply identifies data node is dead. So you see, name node and data node. From the data node, a name node receives some signal. Okay, and that's why name node is very, very important. It written here, name node goes down, SDFS cluster is inaccessible. Okay, how name node handles data node failure? So name node periodically receives heartbeat and a block report from each of the data node in the cluster. Okay, so data node, if data node does not give any heartbeat to name node, okay, certain amount of time, the data node is identified as a dead. So name node will believe that the data node is not sending me some output. It will believe that the data node is dead. Okay, since the block will be under replicated, the system name node will begin replicating the block that was stored on the dead data node. Okay, so what happens? Name node suddenly, instantaneously gives task to another data node where replication is there, where replicated data is there. Okay, this is how name node handles the data node failure. Everything is okay. What is fault tolerance? Very, very important. So fault tolerance means, let's say data is there in our data node, but what Hadoop does, Hadoop replicates data. Hadoop replicates data in our different platform. So what happens? Hadoop replicates data in different platforms. So at one platform, let's say one data gets filled, one laptop or one computer gets filled. So instantly, our Hadoop will replace another computer with that data. Hadoop will replace another computer with that data. Okay. What is speculative execution? Very, very important. So let me read it. If a node appears to be running slowly or dead, the master node can redundantly execute another instance of the same task on another data node, and first output will be taken. This process is called speculative execution. Once again, let's say one computer it is dead. Just now name node came to know that one data node is not responding. That means it's dead. Okay. So the master node redundantly executes another instance of the same task on another data node. So we know that a replicated data is available. Replicated data is available on another node. Fine. So what we do, we instantly starts same task on another data node. Instantly starts the same task on another data node, and another data node, whatever output it gives, it takes, or name node considers. Very, very important question, speculative execution. Okay. So again, what happens when data node is failed, our name node selects another data node and starts executing. This simple process known as a speculative execution. Now, default replication factor in SDFS is what? 3. And if you want to set replication less than 3, what we do? In SDFS-site.xml, we put here value as a 3, 2, 1. Set value is a 3, 2, 1. Okay. So this is a replication factor. Now, this question can be asked. File size is 200 MB. How many inputs will be given by SDFS, size of each input split? Who is going to give me answer? Very, very important question, and as well as very easy question if you consider. Who is going to give me the answer of this question selected here? Anyone? If the 61 million, the 4 inputs, very, very good. What about 120 MB? You are supposed to write for both, Nitin. If 120 MB partition is there, how many partition it will create? Very good. 2 input splits, right? Very, very important, this question. Now, this can be asked as a 600 MB or 800 MB or 1 GB. So if it takes 1 GB, then just consider 1000 MB. Okay? No need to get confused. Fine. So next question. What is data locality in MapReduce? So data node is having a data blocks in a file system. Every task tracker is working on the data which is local to the data node. So as I told you, data locality, let me tell you. Let me tell you this with this diagram. What is data locality? We bring program, we send program where data is there. You see in this data node, let's say our data is here. Okay, this data node we have data a.txt. So we send program using task tracker. We send that program to where data is. Okay. Usually what we do that we bring data where our program is, right? We bring data, listen carefully. We bring data where our program is, but here it should not happen. What we are supposed to do, we have to send what? We have to send our program where data is. Okay. This is what we are supposed to do. That is data locality. Yeah, just concept has to be clear. Otherwise, there won't be any problem. Okay, this one is different question. Difference between CDH3 and CDH4 Hadoop with regards to name node. In CDH3, name node is a single point of failure. CDH4, we have active and passive name nodes. In active name nodes fails, passive name node will come into the picture. Now, it's a version. So, older version had Apache 1.0 version. Apache 1.0 version Hadoop, they had a CDH3 where name node is single point of failure. In latest version of Apache 1.0, like greater, like right now you are working with 3.0. So those versions have secondary name node also. One name node gets failed, secondary name node will take over the work. Okay. Now what is a heartbeat in SDFS? So heartbeat is a signal indicating that is alive. So data node sends heartbeat to name node, and task tracker will send its heartbeat here, heartbeat to job tracker. So our name node or job tracker does not receive heartbeat, then they will decide there is a problem with data node or task tracker. Okay, so that is a job of heartbeat. Heartbeat job is what? To send data to signal. It's a one sort of signal that it sends to name node as well as job tracker. Okay, and this is how we configure. This is how we configure that we come to know that whether that task tracker or data node is working alive or not. So do we need to place two replication on one rack or one replication on the rack? Now, this question is fine even if you don't know the rack. Okay. Now the rack, I have not explained you the what is rack in Hadoop. So I will explain you another time what is rack. Okay. Fine. So rack topic is still left. Then I will explain it later on because I don't have any presentation. I don't written here. So I'll just see which one is the best easy language and I'll write down here. Fine. So let's come to the next topic. Hive is our last chapter, but let's see if we get time. I mean, we are not supposed to learn right now. Let me jump to the NoSQL. Now you see we have just now revised yesterday's topic and some important questions. HBase is okay. Pig is okay. Scoop is not our syllabus. Uzi is not our syllabus. Yeah, configuration, this compression technique. So gzip, yesterday we have seen reasonable compression, LZO, reasonable compression or faster decompression, snappy, faster compression, faster decompression, bzip2, okay, bzip2, codec, splittable compression. Okay. So configuration level, how do we put this compression in Hadoop? So it's here. In mapper site.xml file, we can write down compression. So in this property, second property we can define is the compression value. Mapper.output.compression codec, snappy compression. And how do we read compression data? So Hadoop fs hyphen text wc output part hyphen r dot deflect. So we are working compression data. So mapper and reducer, can handle the compression data. And reducer also give us output in compressed data form. Reducer gives output in compressed data form. Okay. So that is why we have this dot deflect. I mean, deflect is a compression technique algorithm. So we had output in this compressed format. We can read data using this dot deflect. Okay, deflect is for what? Gzip. It's for gzip algorithm. Deflect is a gzip extension actually. And so this is the which level? Configuration level. At programming level, there is a different way we can define compression. So we have to set conf set boolean mapper.output.compress true. So in our first program driver code, we are supposed to set like this. Now actually let me tell you, this program, this code is for old API. This is not the new API code. Okay. I don't think this new API code is available here with me, but old API code is here. So here you just say compression is true, it's enable, and you can set the class which compression you want to apply. So you are saying snappy codec class. So that compression program is already given by them. It will just apply this compression. Okay, for combiner we are just require one line in our program, right? Okay, fine. So no SQL data is not here, but fine. We'll see MongoDB later on. First, let's start with NoSQL. So give me 2-3 minutes. Let me first search this NoSQL file, and then we'll start. Yes, everyone. So let's begin our next chapter. NoSQL. Now you see this chapter we are starting now. As I told you, NoSQL right now, as per the syllabus, is only theory part. There are no practicals are involved here. But as I so that you can understand how this NoSQL works, I'll be performing practicals. But there are no practicals involved in lab session for regarding NoSQL. Okay, because NoSQL, I mean, no practicals are given. As well in this practical list, they have given, there are no practicals are given regarding NoSQL. So I'll be just performing here NoSQL practicals, and you are supposed to see and get an idea. Okay, if you want to perform by yourself, then you can do that. So one topic is still left, that is RAG. What is RAG in Hadoop? That I'll be explaining later on. Okay, fine. Let's begin our NoSQL. What exactly NoSQL? How is this working? Okay. Okay, so before I proceed, let me ask, any doubt in Hadoop? Anything from your side in Hadoop? I mean, Hadoop is not yet complete. There are a lot of things to complete, lot of things to see. But as per the syllabus, the chapter has been completed. Okay. So in Hadoop, any doubt, anything from your side? Yes, anything. I think one or two students are only learning. Even in lab, so many people are coming without laptop. Without this streak approach, you won't learn anything. I mean, very few students are very interested, highly interested. Anyway, remember the task, what I told you. We need to create one cluster of Hadoop and Spark. Okay, remember this task? At the end of September, I think second meet, before second meet, I'll be calling you. Those who have done this Hadoop setup in their laptop computer. Okay, so to set up, to create a cluster of Hadoop and Spark. Fine. Again, still we, after a month, we'll be calling you. Let's begin this NoSQL. What is NoSQL? First of all, we'll go a little bit slow because the concept is little bit new to you. Okay. First of all, what is SQL? Who is going to tell me what is SQL? Let me write down here. SQL is structured query language. Okay. Where we apply this SQL? In database. Which database? Structured database. We apply this SQL in the structured database. Why we call structured database? Because yes, very good relational database. Why? Because everything is in structure. Structure means in table form, row column format. Everything is row column format. That's why we call it structure. Okay. Now there is a problem with this structured database. What is that? First problem, I think you have experienced or you know that. Then let's. I have made one table. I have put 10 rows. I have put 10 rows. Okay. So how do I draw this? Here. Let me share here Word file. I'm just explaining you what is the problem with SQL. So okay. So let me put one table here. So we have this table with ID, name, surname. We have put some values 1, A, B, 2, C, D, T, G, F, 4, H, I. After filling this data in table, what happens? Suddenly our requirement gets changed and we are required to put one more column beside this. Let's add one more column. Right click, insert column to my right. Okay, and age. You introduce one more column. So at the time of fourth data, there were no age column. Now suddenly age column appears. So at the time of entering fifth data, I'll be entering fifth data like this. 5 J K and age 25 like that. What about this rest of the thing? It will be null. It will be null, right? And at the time of retrieval, this may create some problem. This may create some problem. This is one of those very small problem of SQL, structured query language, where runtime we want to introduce something else, runtime we want to introduce some more data. This will be problem. Okay, this will be problem. And before that, if we are introducing some uh, constraint, if we are introducing some constraint, it will create more problem. If we are introducing more constraint, it will be more problem. Okay. So I hope you understood this little bit constraint, okay, which we have a relational database. Okay. Now let's go back to this. Okay. So first of all, why? Question is why no SQL? Okay. So first is the data. We are storing more data than we ever have. We are storing more data than we ever have. Okay. Connections between our data are growing all the time. So connections between all the data. You see, relation between two data are growing all the time. There are too much relations. Okay, in Facebook, you are liking someone's photo, liking someone video, then you are commenting. Everything is there in Facebook. How they, you see there are a lot of connections. Other person can see you, your profile, as well. Other person can uh, see what you like, and a lot many information, your friend list, all these things. So we have to keep all this data here as well as some connections. We have to maintain a lot of connections. Okay, we don't make things knowing the structure from day one. At the time of creation of Facebook, they had no idea what kind of, how much they will grow. So they made some very small database. From that first day, you will never know what will be the structure of my uh, database. So structure we don't know. We never know the structure from the first day. So as I told you, runtime we have to add some column. Runtime we have to add some column. Okay. Server architecture is now at the stage where we can take advantage of it. Server architecture. Now, like 10, let's say 10, not 10, 15 years ago, server was like, there were so many constraints. It was not able to give, like we can say, it was not able to handle that much traffic. Now the servers are capable enough to handle a lot of traffic. A lot of protocols are there, networking protocols are there. They're able to handle a lot of traffic. So everything is on our side. The server side is very much powerful nowadays. So that is why we can use NoSQL. These are the things. Now you see here, this graph is very, very important. There is a boundary of relational database. You see, this is the boundary of relational database. When database complexity increases and the size also increases, okay, so you see, if you are creating some salary list, let's say Marwadi is a big organization, you are creating salary list, how much salary is getting faculty, dean, HOD, some other admin staff, some other sweeper staff, so, I mean lot of people are here. So if you compare the salary, so complexity is less but size will be much larger here. If you count the early, I mean yearly salary, this will be size will be much larger. Most of the web application works here, where complexity is not that much. I mean, it's again two again complexity is there, and size is again moderate size. Most of web application works here. Social network works here, where complexity is much larger, size is much larger. It's a out of bound for relational database. Semantic trading. Complexity is much larger, but size is very less. Okay, like share market is there. We do trade, so complexity is much larger, but size is too much, but still we do day-to-day trading. Lot of previous day trading goes to archive. Okay, so you see this is the graph. Here is the limit of relational database. Beyond that, if you want to go, you have to have some tool, magical tool, which gives you the performance, power of performance. Okay, so NoSQL use cases are what? When we have large data volumes, massively distributed architecture required to store data, Google, Amazon, Facebook, 100K servers. These are the use case. These people are using NoSQL. These people are using NoSQL. So it's a distributed architecture, very large distributed architecture. It's required to store some data. Okay, Google, Amazon, Facebooks are there. Extreme query workload. It's impossible to efficiently do joins at that scale with an RDBMS. So joins, if we are performing joins, now you see the joins is for what? It reduces the capability. I mean joins a two table and gives us some temporary table, temporary data. That is the inner join, outer join is a left outer join, right outer join is there, right? They give us, they joins two table, two large tables, give us some temporary data, temporary table in table. Okay, so let's say we have very large data, and if you want to perform join, it will take too much time from RDBMS. Why it takes too much time in RDBMS? Because you see, let me write down. RDBMS follows ACID property. RDBMS follows ACID property. So it has to follow ACID property. It has to follow some properties. If our RDBMS is not following ACID property, then there is no use of that database. Once again, if we are not following ACID properties, then it's also not known as a database. In order to make the database a legit SQL database, we have to follow ACID property. If you are making one database, then you have to follow ACID properties. Okay, this is one of the concept in database. If you are not following ACID property, then your database is not known as a, I mean, relational database, RDBMS, right? Yeah. So NoSQL are not following ACID properties. Once again, NoSQL databases are not following ACID properties. So these are not known as a relational database. They are known. They are known as a NoSQL database. Fine. So extreme query workload, where we have lot of joins are there. So there we can use NoSQL. And schema evaluation, as I told you with example that already three columns are there. If you want to introduce one more column, it will be difficult for us to introduce one more column. It will be difficult for us to introduce one more column. That schema our evolved, the design of database evolved, and we have to introduce one more thing. What is pros and cons of NoSQL? Advantage and disadvantage of NoSQL. So massive scalability advantage, highly available, lower cost, schema flexibility, sparse and semi-structured data. So these are the advantage of NoSQL. It's a scalable. Massive scalable means if some more data comes, we don't need to do anything. I mean, it scales automatically. High availability, it's available. Lower cost, schema flexibility. We can add any new column or any new key to this NoSQL. Sparse and semi-structured data. Okay, so we can put semi-structured data in our NoSQL, whereas in RDBMS we are supposed to put only structured data. What are the cons? What are disadvantages? Limited query capabilities, which I also faced. From the SQL to NoSQL, when I went there, so if I want to search something, it's very difficult to do that. Very difficult to do that. Okay. Not standardized. Portability may be an issue. Standards are different. For different NoSQL, standards are different, whereas in SQL, standards are common. Okay. We can put MySQL database to Oracle. We can put Oracle database to SQL Server. There are different data sets are there. And still a developing technology. It's a developing technology still. Cons is it's a disadvantage. Still, I mean, you see the presentation is old little bit. It's developed technology. A lot of people are using it. Okay. Next question, very, very important. What are the 4 types of NoSQL database? You have to remember this. This question can be asked in your exam. 4 types of NoSQL database. Key value pair, first one. Document oriented NoSQL, GraphDB, and Bigtable. Once again, key value pair, document oriented, third one is a Bigtable, fourth one is a GraphDB. Okay. Now, in order to understand the NoSQL, first we have to imagine a library. So in library, what we have? Now you know the college library, right? So in college library, we have a lot of floors, different section on each floor, different bookshelves in each section, different books are there. Lots of books on each shelf. On each different shelf, we have lots of books. We have lots of pages in each book and lots of words on each page. A lot of words on each page. Okay, so everything is well organized and everything is a space. In library, everything is organized, right? If you go there, you want computer books, it's there in some section. So what happens if we buy too many books? I mean, you see, if we buy many books, you see there will be a lot of problem of space. Where do we keep all those books? Second will be problem of money. How do we get all this money? Okay, I mean, there are a lot of problems if we buy. Okay. What happens if we want to store CDs all of a sudden? Okay. Now convert those books into CDs, and how do we store CDs? How do we get CDs all of a sudden? That is again a problem. This one is a strange problem. We want to remove the books which mentions the kitten. How do we find that? We want to get rid of the books which mentions the kitten. How do we get rid of that? Okay, so let's come to these different types. I mean, you see, due to this, I mean, if we convert this data into digital format, then we can do easily. And digital format, in the sense, if we use NoSQL database, again, it will be good. It will be beneficial for us, right? Okay, I hope everyone is getting. Just write down chat box yes or no. Okay, good, fine. So, give me some 2 minutes time. Uh, just give me 2 minutes time. Yes, everyone. So yeah. So here, what you see here is a big table. It's a Google big table. Okay. So we are talking about NoSQL database, and Google Big Table is a one of the NoSQL database type. Okay. Google Big Table is not technically it comes in this type, but anyway, let me explain you. It behaves like a standard relational database, but with a slight change. It's designed to work with a lot of data, a really big caption created by Google and now used a lot by lots of others. Okay, big table is where we can use lot of data. Fine. So this is standard relational database where all a lot of small tables are connected with each other using foreign key primary key. And this is a big table database. Okay, it's everything is there inside this big table. Everything is there inside the big table. So this is one of the definition. A big table is a sparse, distributed, persistent, multi-dimensional sorted map. Map is indexed by a row key, column key, and timestamp. Each key value in the map is an uninterrupted array of bytes. The next database type is key value. Okay, it's a designed to work with a lot of data. So each bit of data is stored in a single collection. Each collection can have different types of data. Now this is simple. Key value pair. What is key value pair? We have studied in Mapper, where key is there. Key could be any word or some number, and with that word or number, some values associated. It's simple known as a key value pair. Simply known as a key value pair. So you see, this is the key. With this key A, what we have, some shape is there. With key B, we have one more shape. With this key C, we have one more shape, like that. With key D, we have one more shape, and with key stars, we have one more shape. Okay, now you see, different key has a different data types, data set. Okay. So our values are hidden inside the keys. To find out what they are, we need to query them. So how do we query them? We ask them, what is in key B? The answer will be triangle. You see, key B has a triangle. Okay. So what are the example of key value pair? Dynamite is there, Redis is there, Voldemort is there. This simple key value. Uh, NoSQL database is there. Okay. So again, there are four types of NoSQL database: big table, key value, graph DB, and document. Now you see big table, the name has changed. I mean, big table is there in Google database, but the different name is there. Okay. So I'll be telling you later on. Okay, document store. What is document database? So designed to work with a lot of data. Document databases are designed to work with a lot of data. Okay. So very similar to a key value database because it stores value in key value database. Main difference is that you can actually see the value. Main difference is that you can see the value. Okay. So this is document store database where these are the keys and the values are there. So bring me the triangles. So yeah, where is it? Which in which key is there? We can reverse way. We can also inquire all these things. Okay. So these are some of the side notes. So how SQL database are library? So we can store this library as a SQL database. NoSQL is like a bag of cats. Okay, bag of cats means different cats are there in NoSQL databases. Different cats are there in NoSQL databases. So how many different cats we have? You see, this cat we have named color tabby. Name is different. This cat has a color different. Name is different. Now suddenly this cat comes and we are introducing one more type, that is age. That is again a different one. Again this cat comes, we are introducing one more column, that is age. And again this cat comes, we are introducing legs as a three. Okay, now you see, at runtime we are introducing more and more columns. So NoSQL can accommodate all these things, and we can have data stored in this NoSQL. So document stored data is like this. Bring me kittens, of course. Redis MongoDB is the document stored databases. We will be studying MongoDB to get an idea, not too much, but little bit. Last one is graph database. What is a graph database? So focus here is on modeling the structure of data inspired by graph theory. Now you know the graph theory, right? You have studied graph theory in first semester, second semester, I don't know. But it also comes in a gate. So scales really well to the structure of the data. Scales really well to the structure of data. Now you see the graph, we have nodes. In between we have arcs. And you see, let's say the person is, this one is one person, the second person, let me go down. Yeah. You see, we have John, we have Michael. Michael works with John, John works with Michael. We can do like this. John owns some car. The brand and current state is working. Michael owns some car, brand is Toyota, and current state is broken. And they both share one car. So we can also put this graph, car shares in this brand. Now you see, graph database is very flexible, but again, we have to have some skill to operate this graph database. Again, we can put more data. Owns, prototype, car. Example is Neo 4G. Okay, so how this database is we are able to handle a different stage. You see, as the complexity increases and the size increases, complexity is very small, very less. We can use key value store. If complexity is not too much high, we can use big table form. Complexity is little bit higher, we can use document database. If higher complexity and size is again very good, we can use graph database. So let me tell you, Facebook is using graph database. You can search out regarding the graph database. Okay, and you see, there is one line is here. Most of the use cases are here below this. Or in a lifetime, you may not use the NoSQL database because a lot of data, we are not dealing with a lot of data, right? So you may not use this use case. Okay, so the question is when to use NoSQL, when to use SQL. This question is important. So basics is, so these are the features we want. High availability in disaster recoveries are must. Understand the pros and cons of each design model. Don't pick something just because it is new. Now you might be thinking that okay, NoSQL is new, let's try NoSQL. No, it's not advisable. Okay, don't pick something because just on performance, because every time we don't require performance, right? These points are basic. We have to keep in mind. Where SQL is good, We have a high performance on transactions like ACID property. SQL is good, then we have high structure, very portable. We have small amount of data, supports many tables with different types of data. Can fetch ordered data, compatible with lots of tools. Now you see these are the advantage of SQL. If you have less than 500 GB of data at the time, at the same time we'll be using SQL only. More than 500 GB of data, SQL is not good. It can fetch ordered data very well. So SQL follows ACID property: atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. Fine. We know this, right? All four types in SQL. We have seen this. Okay. Why is bad SQL? When it goes bad, complex queries takes a long time. Let's say I want to perform a join, so it will take a lot time to perform join. The relational model takes a long time to learn. Relational model takes a long time to learn. Not really scalable. It's not scalable. Not suited for rapid development. It's not suited for rapid development. Okay, now these are the points. That is why we are not considering SQL properly. So here comes the NoSQL. So NoSQL fits well for volatile data. It's a high read and write throughput. In general, it's a faster than SQL. It's a faster than SQL. It scales really well. Scales really well, and rapid development is possible. Some rapid development is there, that's why it's possible. So NoSQL is basically available, soft set, eventually consistent. These are the some of the properties. Once again, let me tell you. Volatile data, high read and write throughput. It's a faster than SQL. That is why we are using NoSQL. It scales really well. Rapid development is possible. Okay, why it's good? Key value pair need to be unpacked all the time. Still working on the getting security for. Okay, it's a bad actually. It's a spelling mistake here. Still working on getting security for those working as well as SQL. Lack of relations from one key to another. There is a lack of relations from the one key to another. Okay. So SQL means what? It works great. Can't scale for larger data. NoSQL, it works great, but doesn't fit all the situation. Okay. So these two are different databases. So we have to use both, but think about when you want to use them. You have to think about when to use both databases, right? So finally, lot of this content is from the internet. Okay, fine. So this was about NoSQL. Everyone understood about NoSQL little bit. I'm not asking you to fully understood, but little bit. I hope you all are not sleeping. Fine. So let me open another presentation. Let me first search another presentation. Good presentation is there. Let's start with that presentation. Give me 2-3 minutes time. so that I can search and find the presentation. We'll start with that. Okay. Let me mute for 2-3 minutes. Okay, fine. So there is one presentation I have, which is one of the company's presentation. I'm going to share with you. Okay, I hope you can see the presentation regarding NoSQL only. Now you see we are seeing NoSQL only, right? We are seeing NoSQL only. So again, we are understanding what is NoSQL and its type and what are the benefits. We already seen one presentation where all the things were given, right? So here, what is written? Defined by what is not. What is NoSQL? What is not in SQL that comes in NoSQL. Okay. So any database that is not relational database, you see, as I told you, the database is known as a relational database when it follows ACID property. But if database is not following ACID property, then it's known as a NoSQL. Okay. So it in second line, if you read, the term was coined at a meetup with the creators behind some of prominent emerging databases. Okay, there was a meetup and the creator decided to give this name. So non-relational database might be more correct, but it's a mouthful. Non-relational database, it's a too long name. Okay, so yeah, so this is how this NoSQL keyword came. Okay, so NoSQL, what's in the name? NoSQL. So it's not about saying that SQL should never be used or SQL is dead. No, SQL is not going anywhere. So like some times ago, people were saying like Java is gone, Java will not be used. Now I don't see anywhere. I mean, Java is used popularly. I mean, it's more popular than ever before. Okay, in lot of technology, you see the Hadoop. It's built on Java only. Okay, so there are a lot of things are in Java. Again, it's open source, free. Now Oracle bought it. I mean, it's a different story. Yeah, we can say not only SQL. The proper word is this for no SQL. It's a not only SQL. Okay, so it's about recognizing that for some problems, other storage solutions are better suited. So some problems are, as I said, your data is very large. It comes in unstructured way. At runtime, we are introducing one more column or some more data. Okay, I mean, data is large and we require some faster throughput where our performance has to be good. So at that time, we use this no SQL. At that time, SQL is not good. So why now? NoSQL is why now only. Why not before that? Now it's an older one. NoSQL is there already in market. Lot of people are using. So here there are four trends. Why we are using NoSQL? There are four trends. Okay, that's why we are using NoSQL. Okay, first one is the data size. You see, first of all, it's a data size. You see, data size is too much. We have exabyte of data stored per year. I mean, you see the in presentation data given till 2010 only. There are a lot of data, more data available. Okay. So each year more and more digital data is created. Over 2 years, we created more digital data than all the data created in history before that. So, I mean, you see, how do we handle this much data? Let's say Facebook and Google, they are getting a lot of data. So how do they handle? Second, connectness. You see, connection is there. Facebook, let's consider Facebook, social media, Instagram is there. Okay, where you give post, like, share, comment. I mean, lot of things you do, subscribe, and all these things. Where you see all these things are shared in a one global graph database. Okay. So the data are interlinked and connected. That is why it's a connectness. The information connection has been growing. Lot of. Third one, semi-structured data. Okay, so let's say semi-structured data. One example is there. Let's say one of the employees working in the some organization. In that organization, employees they divide the job in different columns. So in previously there was only one job that people will do some this accounting. Now that people might be doing accounting, that people might be doing some other job. So there are different jobs available, and we have to credit salary according to that job. Okay. So runtime we are adding jobs, runtime we are removing that job. So it's a becomes semi-structured data. Database, a relational database. I mean, we can do, but a lot of null value will be facing. And the architecture. Fourth one is architecture. Okay. You see mainframe application. Previously it was like database application, simple. So in 1990s it grows where different application can use one database. Now, different application can use different databases, not one. It's a decoupled services. Okay. So now again, if you see, again, it's a complex architecture we are using for faster performance. So why NoSQL now? Because of these four trends. We have size, connectness, semi-structure, and due to the architecture, which is in a support of us. That's why we use NoSQL databases. Okay, fine. Okay, I think from here, I will continue next lecture. I think from this part, we'll continue next lecture. Next lecture, I'll be showing you MongoDB, and after that, our NoSQL gets complete because it's a theory part only, and we are covering from this presentation. Okay, nothing new. 2, 3 questions are important that I will also tell you in the next lecture. That is on next Wednesday, right? Fine. So after mid semester, we have our this lecture. So we'll continue at that time. Fine. So let's conclude our session here. Any doubt, anything from your side? Write down in chat box. Anything from your side? No, Zil, I did not tell you to write down your number. I will mark your absent. Have I told you to write down your number? So for attendance purpose only, some people are coming. Anyway, now everyone write down your number in chat box with your class name. Yeah, you are thinking like this only. Your attention is on attendance only. That is what you are saying. Okay, I think everyone has written their number in chat box. Let me stop recording.